Friends, here we shall discuss a model question paper and its answers based on classics of world literature, which is a core course for the 6th semester BA English Language and Literature students of the University of Calicut. Well, you will find the link to the question paper and its answers down in the description box. Well, you can download the question paper and its answers, and you can take a printout and you can read the questions as well as the answers along with this video. So let's start section A. Short answer question number 1. Define epic. The word epic comes from the Greek word epos, which means word or song. Characteristically, it is a long narrative poem in elevated style, recounting the deeds of a legendary hero. The Iliad and the Odyssey are examples of epics. Well, this question, there are 3 points. Number 1, a long narrative poem. Epic is a long narrative poem. Number 2, the style, elevated. Number 3, it recounts, it narrates the actions, the deeds of a legendary hero. Question number 2. Explain the Trojan horse and the Achilles heel, the 2 famous phrases in English. A Trojan horse is a wooden horse said to have been used by the Greeks during the Trojan War to enter the city of Troy and win the war. So it means something intended to defeat an enemy from within, usually by deceptive means, not by fair means. Achilles heel means a weak or vulnerable point. Question number 3. What is the outcome of the fight between Gilgamesh and the bull of heaven? Gilgamesh and Enkidu, his friend, killed the bull, which angers all the gods. The gods decide to punish the unassailable Gilgamesh by killing his friend Enkidu. Question number 4. What is rasa in the Indian theatre? Rasa is an emotion excited by artistic circumstances or situations.
There are 9 rasas: Sringaram, Hasyam, Raudram, Karunam, Bibhatsam, Bhayanagam, Veeram, Adbhudam, and Shantam.
Question number 5. Why does the shepherdess crush the violet, the flower, in Goethe's poem? The shepherdess fails to notice the violet. She doesn't see it. And so, she tramples and crushes it in her ecstasy. Question number 6. What is the poet's attitude towards religion in Rilke's poem, Adam? The poet, that is Rilke, is not a believer in religion or God in the traditional sense. Rilke trusts mankind more than an anthropomorphic God, a God in human form. He doesn't trust him. He trusts man more than the God. Question number 7. What is the difference between the heart and the mirror according to the poem, Let Go of Your Worries? According to Rumi's poem, Let Go of Your Worries, there is only a single difference between the mirror and the heart. That is, the heart conceals secrets. The heart hides secrets, whereas the mirror does not. Question number 8. How is the flower portrayed in Basho's poem, In the Twilight Rain? What kind of a poem is it? Basho, the Japanese poet, describes the brilliant colored hibiscus in the twilight rain against a lovely sunset. 3 points. Number 1, a brilliant hued, a brilliant colored sunset. Number 2, the twilight rain. Number 3, a lovely sunset. The poem, as you know, is a very short poem, which is a haiku having 17 syllables. Question number 9. How did Jean Valjean, that is Jean Valjean, repay the kindness of the bishop the very next morning? Well, that's a very clever question, remember. Jean Valjean repaid the host, the bishop's hospitality, by stealing his silverware, by stealing the bishop's silver candlestick. Question number 10. What is the reason for Balaramas' rage, anger against Bhima? Balarama was angry because Bhima tricked Duryodhana before his eyes, just in front of his eyes. He tricked him. Bhima struck Duryodhana in his thighs, thus killing him in a very, very brutal manner. You will remember, in a duel, in a fight between two people, hitting below the waist was against the rules. But this is what Bhima did. Question number 11. What information is brought by Creon from the oracle of Delphi? Well, this is the information that the gods had caused the plague in Thebes in response to the murder of Laius, the previous king of Thebes. The murderer should be exiled or killed. This is the first condition. The plague would be lifted only after the completion of the task. Question number 12. Why did the king go to the hermit in simple clothes and without a bodyguard? The hermit lived in a small hut in a forest, which he never left. He spoke only to common folk. The hermit spoke only to common people. That is why the king put on simple clothes and approached the hermit in disguise, dressed like a common man. Question number 13. What is Rustam's gift to Tamina, and what does he say? Rustam took from his arm an onyx, which is a precious jewel, and gave it to Tamina. He told her that if the child was a daughter, she should fasten it in the girl's hair. In case it was a boy, she should put it on his arm. Question number 14. What is the version of the murdered man about his death in the story In a Bamboo Grove? After his wife and the bandit had left, the man picked up the dagger that his wife had dropped and killed himself. Then someone came that way and pulled the dagger from his chest. He died. Question number 15. Where did the Fairy and Zhu hide in the story, The Painted Wall? Zhu took refuge beneath the bed, while the fairy opened a little side door in the wall through which she escaped. Well, these are the 15 short answer questions. Now, let's come to section B, which has 7 paragraph questions. Well, you are asked to answer at least 5 questions. Each question carries 6 marks. You may also answer all the questions because there is an overall ceiling of 30 marks. Let's start the questions one by one. Question number 16. What are the salient features of the Greek theater? Well, you can find the picture here, picture of a Greek theater. The Greek theater was built in the open air and was generally quite large. Well, some of the theaters could accommodate up to 17,000 people. Usually, the Greek theater was built in a hollowed out hillside, on the hillside. It had 4 main parts. the theatron, number 1, the orchestra, number 2, the scene, number 3, and the proscenium, number 4. The theatron was the seating area section for the audience. It was shaped like a horseshoe, U shape. The circular area at the ground level was known as the orchestra. The scene was a wooden structure or building at the open end of theatron, which was meant for changing of masks and costumes, well, a dressing area. And the proscenium was the level area in front of the scene on which most of the play's actions took place. Well, it was like a stage. Question number 17. Influence of Mahabharata and Ramayana on the socio-cultural milieu of India. The Mahabharata and the Ramayana are not mere monumental pieces of literature. They are not simply books. They are great books that teach Hindu Dharma. These epics also highlight the ideas of unification of kingdoms, dynasties, peoples, regions, and languages. Well, what we call now the globalization. They take special care to include as many regions and ethnic groups as it can. These great books were adapted, translated, retold, and recreated in every region of India, including tribal areas. It testifies to the success of the cultural integration brought about by these epics, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. People continue to identify themselves with the epic traditions, associate places with the visits of the epic heroes, and recall their own role in developing epic traditions. Question number 18. Why does Omar Khayyam put his faith in wine as revealed in the Rubaiyat? The poet Omar Khayyam believes that life is short and everyone becomes dust and never returns. One is advised to live in the present and not to worry about the past or future. It is futile, it is useless to worry about the purpose of life. Now, why should you worry about that? Or hope for afterlife. Well, as far as he is concerned, there is no life after life. The poet advocates wine as the best antidote for reason's inability to see into darkness. Wine offers a hedonistic escape from the meaninglessness of life. Well, hedonistic, eat, drink, and be merry. That is the purpose of life. Wine does not offer an escape from life, but an escape into it. Though he agrees that wine has often compromised his reputation, it is wine that also gives him the courage to accept life. Question number 19. How is love paralleled to the life of a flower in the poem, a flower shriveled, bare fragrance? Pushkin's short poem, The Flower, is about a dried out, forsaken flower, a romantic inquiry into the journey of the flower. The poet happens to see a dried out flower forgotten in a book. It has lost all its fragrance. Well, it's a dry flower, so no fragrance, no smell. The poet wonders about the time and the place where the flower bloomed. He also wonders how long it stayed blooming and whether it was picked by a stranger or a friend. Who put the flower here in this book? And for what? Was it in memory of a lovers' meeting or their separation or a lonely walk in silent forest, or in a meadow? Is the girl still alive? And she is still living happily with her lover? If they are living together, where are they at this point of time? Or whether they are also withered and lost their brightness like this small, beautiful, wilted flower in this book? Well, remember, the poem is made up of a series of questions like this. Question number 20. Why does Duryodhana feel that he deserves this plight? Duryodhana was the eldest of the Kauravas, the 100 sons of the blind king Dhritarashtra and the queen Gandhari. Being the firstborn son, he was the crown prince of the Kuru kingdom. Duryodhana had a great skill in wielding mace. He was also an extremely courageous warrior. However, Duryodhana's greed and arrogance were the two qualities that led to his downfall. He was jealous of Indraprastha. Out of anger and jealousy, he unsuccessfully attempted to poison Bhima. Also, it was Duryodhana who encouraged his brother Dushasana to drag Draupadi into the court and remove her robes, disrobe her in public. For these reasons, he feels that he deserves this plight. Question 21. What is the role of Bishop Muriel in Les Miserables? The bishop is a heroic figure who personifies compassion and mercy. Muriel is a very generous and kind-hearted man of God. He is the one who restores Valjean's faith in humanity. His great kindness serves as a main driving force behind Jean Valjean's change of heart. Throughout the novel, the bishop is portrayed as being a holy man whose only purpose in life is to better the lives of those around him. Willing to put his life at risk for the good of others, the bishop hardly ever expresses worry. He is never worried. He cares very deeply for those who worry about him and does his best to comfort their fears. Now the next question, 22. How does the hermit answer the king's questions in Tolstoy's story, 3 Questions? The hermit finally points out the answers to the king's questions through the incident that has just occurred. He deliberately tests the king's patience and makes him dig the ground and wait for the answers. The hermit's answers to the king's 3 questions are that the right time to begin everything is the present time. The most important person is the one that you are with, and that the most important thing to do is to do good to the person that you are with. Now the last question in section B, illusion and the reality in the short story The Painted Wall. The short story The Painted Wall by the Chinese writer Pu Songling portrays the adventures of a man named Zhu in a Zen monastery. In front of the mural of the maiden, Zhu gets transported into the fairy world. He enjoys worldly, sensual pleasures and comes back to himself. The story has elements of the magical, the supernatural, and the sensual in it. It is also marked by a crossing over of the boundaries of illusion and reality, and the dream and art, which is represented in the mural painting. It is a tale in which the boundaries of reality and illusion are blurred, and human love mingles with the supernatural. Well, these are the 7 paragraph questions in section B. Now, the first essay question number 24, comment on the use of epic convention in the major epics. Well, the answer has been prepared in 4 paragraphs. Paragraph number 1, which is the introductory paragraph. Epic, as a genre of classical poetry, originated in Greece. The word epic comes from the Greek word epos, which means word or song. Epic is a long narrative about a serious conventional subject. In world literature, epics are not just literary masterpieces. They are an integral part of the worldview of a society. They were originally oral literatures, which were later written down by either a single author or several writers. Hence, they act as a link between antiquity and modernity. Now, paragraph number 2. Epics use formal, dignified, and objective tone and lengthy figures of speech, like epic similes. They are very long similes. Narratives of this kind focus on the exploits of a hero or demigod who represents the cultural value of a race, nation, or religious group. Obviously, the hero's success or failure determines the fate of the people or nation. The action contains the hero's superhuman display of strength and military prowess. Paragraph number 3. Divine intervention, that is, intervention by God, is another convention used in epics. Gods intervene in human affairs. In the Iliad, when Achilles brandishes a dagger at Agamemnon, a goddess urges Achilles to stay to stop his anger. Quite often, the epic begins with an invocation, a prayer of the muse to inspire the poet and to bestow him with the suitable emotion, powers of creativity, or words to finish the poem. The epic narrative begins in the middle of an action, and subsequently afterwards, the earlier events leading up to the start of the poem will be recounted in flashbacks. Now, the last paragraph. Epics often describe heroic battles. There are battles. Epic heroes often descend into the underworld. In the Odyssey, Odysseus and his men travel to Hades, that is the underworld, the land of the dead, to receive advice from the spirit of Tiresias. They also contain long catalogues of heroes, long list of heroes or important characters with a focus on high-born kings and great warriors. And thus, laymen, ordinary men, do not get an important place, a pivotal space. Ordinary common man has no place in epics. The epic employs extended similes called epic similes throughout the rendering, throughout the narrative. Well, this is the essay. The second essay, question number 25. Write an essay on Canto 4 of Paradise as a spiritual and intellectual journey in the quest for truth. Paragraph number 1, the introductory paragraph. Dante's Paradise, Canto 4, is a spiritual and intellectual journey in the quest for truth. It is Beatrice, his former lover, who guides him in his journey through paradise. He has two equally important questions in his mind. The answers to the questions lead him to intellectual revelation, and he becomes wiser. This is the first paragraph. Paragraph number 2. At the beginning, two equally important doubts disturb Dante. He is in a dilemma as to which question to ask first. Beatrice resolves the dilemma by speaking out his doubts. The first question concerns the case of Piccarda and Constance. Piccarda and Constance were forcibly, by force, prevented from sticking to the vows of chastity. If so, how they were less deserving of supreme blessedness, that is God's grace. The second question is, was Plato right in teaching that souls returned to stars after death? This is paragraph number 2. Now, paragraph number 3. Beatrice resolves the second puzzle, the second question first. Spirits and angels all adorn the highest circle of heaven. They appear on the moon not because they reside there, but as a sign of their lower rank in heaven itself. Dante can only understand that which he perceives, he sees through his senses, which is why he perceives these spirits outside of the highest circle. To the first question, Beatrice explains that even if one did not consent to violence against oneself, one should have attempted to return to fulfilling one's holy vows. Paragraph number 4. Plato teaches that at death, the soul returns to its star. Beatrice says it is not correct. All saved souls inhabit the highest heaven with God. They only appear to Dante in these different heavens because this is the only way Dante's human mind will understand that they are not all equal in their blessedness. Plato's theory means something different from what it actually says. This is dangerous because it tends to lead people away from God. Paragraph number 5, the last paragraph. At the end of the canto, Dante has an intellectual revelation. He becomes wiser. He thanks Beatrice for explaining everything to him. He says that doubt pushes one upwards, that is towards truth. Though one might consider doubt a negative in a religious context, Dante shows how it can help to nurture belief. The canto 4, is a spiritual and intellectual journey in the quest for truth. Well, this is the essay. Now, the third essay question number 26. Tragedy is the representation which, by means of pity and fear, effects the catharsis or the purgation of such emotions. How far is this Aristotelian definition of tragedy true of Oedipus Rex? The first paragraph. Oedipus Rex, Rex means king, Oedipus the king, is an Athenian tragedy, a Greek tragedy by Sophocles. It is a mythic story of patricide, murder of father, and incest, sex with close relatives between father and daughter, mother and son, that is incest. In the play, Sophocles emphasizes the irony of a man determined to track down, to find out, expose, and punish an assassin, a murderer, who turns out to be himself. This is the first paragraph. Now, the second paragraph. At the outset of the play, at the start of the play, Oedipus is the beloved ruler of the city of Thebes. Its citizens have been stricken by a plague, affected by a plague. Consulting the Delphic oracle, Oedipus is told that the plague will cease, the plague will stop, only when the murderer of Queen Jocasta's first husband, King Laius, has been found and punished for his deed. Oedipus resolves to find Laius' killer. His investigation turns into an obsessive reconstruction of his own hidden past. He discovers that the old man he killed when he first approached Thebes as a youth was none other than Laius. Paragraph number 3. At the end, it also becomes clear that Jocasta, his wife, is his own mother. Hence, Oedipus is guilty of incest. Jocasta hangs herself in shame. The guilt-stricken Oedipus wants to kill himself. In final despair, he takes 2 gold pins from Jocasta's dress and he plunges them, he drives the pins into his own eyes and he blinds himself. Paragraph number 4. Now blind, Oedipus begs to be exiled, to be sent out of the country as soon as possible. He asks Creon to look after his 2 daughters, Antigone and Ismene. He laments that they should have been born into such a cursed family. Creon counsels that Oedipus should be kept in the palace until oracles can be consulted regarding what is best to be done. The play ends as the chorus wails, "Count no man happy till he dies, free of pain at last." Now, the last paragraph. The play is known for its tight construction, mounting tension, and perfect use of the dramatic devices of recognition and a reversal of fortune, that is, anagnorisis and peripeteia. It examines the story of Oedipus, who, in attempting to flee, to run away from his fate, rushes headlong to meet his fate, to meet it. Oedipus Rex, Oedipus the king, is the representation which, by means of pity and fear, effects the catharsis or purgation of such emotions. Well, this is the essay. Now, the last essay, essay number 4, question number 27. Here's a quote. "War brings out the bestiality, the brutality, the animal behavior lurking in the human heart. Analyze this statement in the light of Maupassant, short story, Mother Sauvage, that is Mother Savage." Paragraph number 1, the introductory paragraph. In the story Mother Sauvage, Maupassant tells the story of a war in the late 19th century. Focusing on the life of peasants, he explores war through the eyes of common people. Paragraph number 2. The story portrays the everyday plight of the peasants affected by the French-Prussian War, that is the Franco-German War. Mother Sauvage was an old widowed French woman. She was tough and serious. Her husband had been killed by the police. Her only son had been sent off to war. She lived alone in her isolated, snow-covered cottage. Then the Prussians arrived. The Prussian soldiers were distributed among the inhabitants according to their means and resources. Mother Sauvage was known to be well off, so she was assigned 4 soldiers. She got along well with the soldiers. They were good-natured and helped her well. Paragraph number 3. One day, a letter arrived telling her of the death of her son. It shocked her. She behaved as if nothing had happened. However, she acted strangely the rest of the day. She did not eat anything. She asked the soldiers to write the names and addresses of their families on a piece of paper. Later, with their help, she filled the loft they slept in with the straw. She told them that it would keep them warmer. As the soldiers slept, she trapped them in the loft and set the house on fire. Then she stood watching the house, along with the soldiers, burn down. Holding her son's gun, she ensured that no one escaped. She threw the gun into the flame, and a shot rang out, which made the people run up to see what had happened. Paragraph number 4. An officer, thinking her to be mad, asked what had happened to the soldiers. She calmly told them the story, starting with the letter which she produced. She also handed over the paper with the addresses of the dead soldiers' families and their names. She told them that when they wrote to tell the families about their sons' deaths, they had to tell that it was she who had done it. And here is the last paragraph. In the story, the author demonstrates that the soldiers are not the only participants of war. Many other people become involved regardless of their consent. Mother Sauvage, does this by allowing her son to defend their country. The war instills bestiality, brutality, animal behavior, and savagery, cruelty in her personality. The death of her son prompts a complete change, a complete transformation in her. She redeems the death of her son by an equally savage act, burning alive 4 enemy soldiers. War changes values and life perspectives. War brings out the bestiality, the brutality lurking in the human heart. Well, friends, this model question paper, it covers all the chapters, all the lessons in the text. Well, you watch this video as many times as you can and read the questions and their answers. I am sure that this model question paper and its answers will help you through the examination. You will be able to fare well. You will be able to write your university examination beautifully, comfortably well. So thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Best wishes.